Let me show you the difference between var and let and const in regards to scope. So let's imagine we have a function. That function has the name greet, for example, and we're just going to console.log greet user. And this variable, if we define a variable that has the name x, for example, and we're going to say x equals 10, and we're going to console.log x, and we're going to call this function, and now we're going to run the code. You can see that we have 10 inside of our console. So this works just as expected and would also work if we would use let or const. But now let's say that we are going to use an if statement right here, and we say if 5 is equal to 5, for example, which obviously is true, we are going to set var x equals 10. So now we are basically defining our variable inside of this block, inside of this if statement block. We are going to run the code, and as you can see, we are again getting 10, even though we are using our console.log outside of this block. So let's use let, for example, instead of var, and we're going to run the code, and as you can see, we're getting an error. So why is that? So var defines a variable inside of the function scope. So basically inside of the scope of the function where you define it. So even if you go down 10 blocks and define it within an if statement, so within the block of an if statement, you can use it wherever you want inside of the function. While let and const are basically scoped to the block where you defined it, so you can't do this. But if you would go ahead and use the console.log and log it within the block where you defined x using let, you can use it, obviously. And like this it works. But if you get outside of the scope of the block where you defined your variable using let or const, you get an error. If you use let or const, you can just use it within the block where you defined it, so within the scope of the block where you find it. And if you use var, you can use it wherever you want inside of the scope of the function.